Hi, so I thought I'd give a go at doing a little thought for the day about our passages, our readings today. I've not done this before really, so bear with me, but yeah, it's lovely to connect with you, and I hope that you guys are doing all right. Well, what a week it's been. Whew. Gosh, it's such a disorienting time, isn't it? For some of us, we've probably felt like we're really alone, not being able to get out, and also just knowing that we're not allowed to go out. Oh, that's hard. For others, maybe like not having the same interactions, daily interactions, as like going and getting the paper or being able to get things like bread and getting stuff from the shops. It's tricky. For others, we might have been sick this week. That must have been scary and awful and horrible to live with. Or maybe we've been worried about getting sick. Or maybe we're worried about our loved ones getting sick. And then all that worrying makes us feel sick, even if it's not coronavirus sick, but just full of worry and sickness. For others, maybe rather than having time stretching, in front of you, you might have been run off your feet. We might have been homeschooling or trying to do work from home or just adapt to life in a different way. Family life, being cooped up in one place altogether, might have been a bit hard. For others, just knowing that this is a really unusual time, that we don't know what's happening in the future, it's scary and uncertain, and maybe our finances are up in the air, we may be worried about that, and we may be staying awake at night. Whatever we're going through is probably really quite different from the last week or even 2 weeks ago, certainly. And that is really stressful. We should acknowledge that. Experts in trauma are actually saying to us that what we're going through, what we're experiencing, is trauma on a global level. We're feeling trauma. What these range of emotions we're going through at the moment, it's trauma. It's a dramatic shock and a change. That's when you suddenly realise that the assumptions that we have about our world, the kind of thing you assume that actually most of the time you get believed that the world is safe and it's just going to be normal. Well, that's kind of been ripped away from us, hasn't it? And now it feels like maybe the world isn't so safe and we're not so okay. And we don't know what's going to happen next. All of that's been broken, and our connections with other people have been broken. And even simple things like going out and getting bread and toilet roll and pasta, that everyday essentials and the things we assume is going to be just normal daily living, has been disrupted and broken. And it's a really confusing and draining time, isn't it? When our ordinary healthy rhythm has been lost. You may be feeling anxious in yourself and in your body because that's the impact of trauma. And so maybe one day you might be feeling low and anxious and hard to get your brain in gear, and then maybe energetic the next. Ooh. Well, the thing that the experts in trauma tell us is that it's self-care is the first thing to do. Attending to your own well-being is vital. This includes just basics like good rest. I know it's easier said than done for some. Eating, making sure you keep eating, general routine, try and get yourself into a pattern of what you do each day. and exercise if you can, even that's just in the house. Me and the kids, we've put on the telly. We just put on YouTube and do some minion Zumba. And it's ridiculous. And I can't do it at all, but it's great. It's good to do once a day. I wonder what for you that might be. I'm sure it won't be minion Zumba though. It also includes self-care is having people you trust, with whom you can share with, and making sure that you're in touch with them. So, self-care is important. Looking after yourself and your loved ones. But what do we make of all of what's going on right now? When it comes to faith, when it comes to belief, like me as a priest, as a vicar here at St Andrews in Bething Road, what do I say into this as a spiritual guide and leader? Where does God fit in? Well, my goodness, it's hard to know what to say. But the first thing I can definitely say is that as a priest, I can't say strongly enough that God has not caused coronavirus. No. Some people are putting this stuff on the internet, saying, oh, well, God's caused this like a plague, or like it's all to do with us being sinful or doing the wrong things, or the environment, or it's some kind of retribution, we should know better, blah, blah, blah. No. The God that we believe in as Christians, the God that Christ taught us about, is a God who is love. God who is love. Wherever there is love, there is God. Today, in our readings, well, they're set on a 3-year cycle. If you want to have a look, you can, I've posted them up in lots of different places, so you should be able to have a read through them. But basically, these readings, well, they're given away in advance and they're set for us. But today, they're really helpful and appropriate. Our psalm, which is a bit like a song, it's like a poem, and it was written in a time when the people of Israel were in exile, and it starts as a cry, the psalm today, a crying out, like many of us may have shouted in our minds this week. I know I certainly have. It starts with this. It says, "Out of the depths have I cried to you, O Lord my God. Lord, hear my voice." Wow. And in our gospel reading, we have the story of Lazarus, who was Jesus' friend, who had died. And Jesus, in this story, shows us the hope that God can bring. Do you know what? Hope out of even the worst of things. Jesus raises and brings back Lazarus from the dead. But what is helpful is, I think, in this passage, that short but profound sentence that we hear just in this one passage, which is Jesus wept. On hearing the death of his friend, Jesus shows us God's solidarity, that God is with us. God cries with us. Jesus wept. We are never alone. Jesus shows us that God knows and feels our pain. But you know what? More than this, the most profound and helpful reading, I think, of all of them that were set for today is the Ezekiel reading. It's the Valley of the Dry Bones, where the prophet Ezekiel has a vision. It's like a dream. And it's of this awful, desolate valley of dry bones, a place of hopelessness. Here, God speaks to Ezekiel, in the vision, and says to Ezekiel to tell these bones that God will cause breath to enter you and you shall live. And you know what? At that, the bones start rattling and they come together, and then extraordinarily, like flesh and sinews come upon these bones, and then God breathes life into them, and it's a multitude of these bones that come back to life. God says that these bones are actually Israel. Today, in our place of stress and uncertainty and worry and anxiousness and pain and suffering, that could be physically, financially, emotionally, mentally, all different ways, whatever graves and awful things we are facing, know today that God is love, and love brings hope into all things. Now, in the vision, Israel says to God, "Our bones are dried up and our hope is lost, and we are completely cut off." And God replies, God says, "I am going to open your graves and bring you up from your graves, O my people, and I will bring you back to the land of Israel." Today, if you feel lost and dried up, if you're struggling to hope and completely cut off, may you hear the one of love say to you, "I will bring you back to your land, to the land that you know and love. I will bring you back to the land of London. I'll bring you back to the land of Hackney and Stamford Hill, to the land of Stoke Newington and Woodbury Down. I will bring you back to the land of yourself." May you then go today in peace and love, knowing that the one of love and hope, that God will be with you and will breathe life into your life again. Amen. Take care and see you soon.